Hey, come join me on this stroll. We're going to be talking about 3 different reasons why you may want to come to Sarasota, Florida and move here, and 3 reasons why you may not. And if you don't know, my name's Maciek Zaremba. I'm a real estate broker. I have a license since 2004, and I've been living here in Sarasota since 1992. So I'm pretty familiar with the area and kind of what's going on. I run a small real estate team. So let's just get right into it. Also, I'm walking around here at the Sarasota Bayfront Park. I'll kind of show you how beautiful this area is. It's one of my favorite parks of the area. So let's get into it. First, we're going to go over why you may not want to move to this area or even come visit. So to start with, we have natural disasters. And being here since 1992, you know, my first summer here, we went through Hurricane Andrew, and that was a monumental one. That was a Cat 5. And one of the main changes that ended up happening from it was that we had a building code changes because it impacted a lot of the old building style, the old properties so greatly. There was so much damage, and it was not in our area. It was down in the Miami, Fort Lauderdale area. So what ended up happening is they changed out building codes, and everything built after that time frame, after that got passed, is in much better condition to withstand hurricane winds. But natural disasters are a real thing, and aside from hurricanes, we also have tropical storms. Those are like baby hurricanes, and can't say us locals are worried whatsoever when that gets announced that there's one in the Gulf of Mexico. Lastly is red tide. That's something that affects the west coast of Florida, and one of the reasons, there's a little debate as to why it happens, but one of the reasons is that it's naturally occurring, and the other part of the conversation as to why we have it is because of dumping toxic water into the Gulf of Mexico. I don't follow up. I don't know truly the reason. I'm not here to debate politics behind it, but what happens is right at the shoreline, a lot of fish die due to, I believe, the nitrates or the nitrite levels, possibly ammonia levels being too high. So what happens is fish end up dying, and then they decompose, and it stinks on the beach. The water levels are also considered not safe, and at that point in time, there's advisories posted, and you can always check on a website. Molt Marine Laboratory does a lot of the testing here, and we know if it's safe or not. So basically, when red tide happens, fish die, organisms die, they wash up ashore, start stinking. That's all. By the way, I just want to show you my favorite tree here at Bayfront Park. All right, let's get into the second reason why you may not like moving to Sarasota or even the west coast of Florida. That reason would be the traffic during season. And I'll tell you, this is very objective. Here's what's up. During the year, we don't really have much traffic. Overall, we don't have much traffic. If you talk to anyone from a big city and ask about how the traffic is in Sarasota, they're gonna say no problem. But that's because we're not used to, neck to neck standing still traffic in our area. But once you've lived here long enough, you kind of get spoiled and you get used to not having any traffic. And and then all the tourism starts in December, and it leaves mid-April, end of April. So it ends up being kind of frustrating, to us locals. But it's really not bad traffic at all. It's actually really good. Look at this little area here. I love it. I love it. This is why I live here. It's nice and sunny. It's a beautiful day, and we're in the middle of January. We're at the end of January. So the traffic is a very subjective thing depending on where you grew up. If you're in the middle of nowhere, you don't ever deal with traffic, then this would be horrible. But you know, to get from one side of town to the other during the worst traffic is what, 30 minutes? That's nothing bad at all. Now, the third reason why you may not want to come to this area is something that's kind of more recent. By more recent, I mean the last 2, 3, maybe even 4 years. That would be the impact that all these storms have had, and some rip-offs as well, on insurance rate, home insurance rates specifically, not car insurance. So we've had this problem here in the entire state of Florida. And what ended up happening was there were devious roofing companies who would door knock, and they would point out problems on people's roofs, and then they would blame some random little storm, not even a named storm, just some random gust of wind, saying that, you know, your 20-year-old roof is damaged because of this storm. Well, that's, you know, not the case most of the time. And what ended up happening was that there was a lot of claims. So insurance rates went up, but it's been going on for years, and at this point they've implemented legislation. And in fact, just at the first of the year, I believe there was a new change that basically makes the homeowners required to pay the attorney fees, but the attorneys used to get their fees from the court, from the winnings. So, you know, long story short, that all ended up adding up to the statistics within Florida for homeowners insurance to be greatly skewed to being like the worst state to get home insurance in, by far. We have something like 9% of all the claims in the United States, and I believe it's like 60% of all the payouts. So yeah, there are like natural disasters like Hurricane Ian and Hurricane Nicole, which we just had recently in 2022. And there is significant damage, don't get me wrong. But either way, the end result is the same. We have an ever increasing rate hike every single year. I've never had my insurance go down, and this past year, some of my homeowners' rates have gone up, you know, 30% year on year. So it is very dependent on how old your house is and so on. If you buy a new construction home, your rate is going to be very low. The last new construction I sold was for $450,000, and the rate was $700 a year. So that is extremely low. But you know, most of the homes that I have that are a little older, you know, from the 80s and 70s, and some even from the 50s, the rates are between $2,000 and $4,000 per year. There's also a lot of carriers pulling out of writing coverage in Florida, so that impacts it as well, where there's no carriers that will write the policy. So therefore, the ones that are left may need to make changes, and they kind of hike up the rate for everyone else. And most of them are at overcapacity. So I think it's right around time for the state to step in and change some of the policies that they have, and possibly subsidize some of that. But now let's get into the reasons why you may really want to move here. So the Sarasota and Bradenton area is very active. So it's really nice because, for example, this park, I'm here in the middle of the day on a Tuesday, and there's plenty of people here hanging around, taking a walk, walking their dog, laying out on their little towel, you know, reading a book. This place is active, and I love it. And that includes sports. There's a lot of fitness-minded people here. There's a lot of gyms, a lot of clubs. There's a lot of, you know, events from churches, and just in general, people are active. There's actually plenty of areas between the two counties where everyone goes and gets together, and that would be, you know, downtown Sarasota is a big one. Siesta Key has some events. Of course, there's Lakewood Ranch. They have 3 major town centers where they can, where they put on a lot of different events. And there's literally, on average, if you just do the math, there's over 1.5 events per day on average. Now it's not truly 1.5 per day, but there's always something going on. So it's very active, and there's even a Hillview area. People come here to have an active retirement, not a slow retirement. So it's catered for that. Now, the second reason why you may want to consider the area is because of our weather, and that's obvious. I mean, just like today, right now. But what goes along with that is something that you may not think about. If you ride bicycles long distance, let's say, you have all year round capability of riding. Maybe some few exceptions on rainy days in the summertime. But there's the Legacy Trail that just opened, a very long trail that is still in expansion, and it goes from downtown Sarasota to Venice, I believe, even past Venice, and it used to be the old train tracks. So there's so much to do outside, and it's because the weather is beautiful. And yeah, we have those hurricanes like I mentioned, but that is very far and few between, right? In fact, we haven't really been directly hit for as long as I've lived here. Now, for weather, we also have all the beaches, and the beaches are definitely something that you've heard about and about, because that's what kind of puts Sarasota on the map. Sarasota has Siesta Key Beach, Lido Beach, we have Casey Key, we have Bird Key, we have Longboat Key. There are so many places that are barrier islands with beautiful beaches, plenty of beaches. And this is the number one reason why people come and vacation here. And the last thing you may want to consider, why you may want to consider, moving here, would be because of just the general affluence, the people, basically. But it's not like rich, snobby people here. What I find is there's an affluent community. There's very few areas that are that some would consider dangerous, and none that anyone from a city would consider dangerous. It's safe, it's well maintained, it's well policed. I've lived here since 1992, and I can't say there's been too many situations that were unpleasant here. It's a great area to live in, and if you have a little time on your hands, there's plenty of things to do, whether it's paid or free. It's completely irrelevant. There's plenty of things to do here, and it's all year round type of thing, not just in the winter, although the winter does have the most activities because that's when all the tourism happens here. So I hope you've enjoyed this little walk at the park here with me. This park is right downtown. If you have any more questions, specific or general about the area or real estate or buying a house or an investment property or something, then give me a call. You can call me at 941-888-SOLD. My name's Maciek Zaremba. I work for Keller Williams. I'm an investor too. I've been investing for over 20 years. I have, a dozen or so rentals, so I can just kind of answer any questions. I do have a little Calendly link at the bottom there. If you have any questions, you can schedule a call. All right, see you in the next one. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments and I'll answer them in a video style like this.